Final Fantasy VII is like a 15-year-old game. Wait. "30-ish years old, and I hadn't played it until about a couple of weeks ago. The legendary RPG that so many people claim as the best gaming experience ever had been slipping through my fingers all these years. And actually, before last year I hadn't even played many Final Fantasy games altogether. I always sort of knew that they were there and that the series had been present in the gaming scene for years and years, but something about them never clicked completely with me. The first one I ended up playing though was not Final Fantasy VII, but Final Fantasy XII back when I was a teenager, a game that I hold near and dear to my heart. But at the moment I played it, even if I did enjoy it, I think I failed to understand or fully grasp the whole concept of what was happening. I was too young to navigate the complex nuances of a Star Wars-inspired Final Fantasy game. By the way, please join me in counting how many times I say Final Fantasy in this video. I also think I wasn't really sold on the whole JRPG experience, you know? I was one of those guys, waiting for your turn to attack, boring, long drawn-out plots, yawn, having to manage more than one character at a time. What am I, an accountant of some sort? Get a load of this guy!
Get a load of this guy!
As years passed by though, and more Final Fantasy games were released, my curiosity started peaking again. I began to take interest in the series. I eventually started to look at JRPGs not with disdain, but with a sense of awe and genuine curiosity. Most of my gaming buddies were actually JRPG nerds, and so that may have influenced my thinking. I did keep wondering to myself though, why does Final Fantasy XII keep coming back? Why do I keep thinking about the characters, the gameplay, the music, and nothing else? Yeah. To start landing the point of the video now, back in 2020 I saw that Square Enix was going to release a remake of Final Fantasy VII, and it was really exciting to see. I was ready to embark on my journey to experience the legendary tale of Cloud and his pals saving the world from Sephiroth. Definitely one of the most highly regarded villains in JRPG history, and although something irked me... Hi, it's me from the future. The irking feeling that the young gentleman behind me is talking about is having to start a game from the 7th entry. What a terrible, terrible feeling. So I did what any normal other human being would have done, and I started playing them from the beginning. This whole adventure will be addressed in a future video though, but I did want to give a little bit of context in what I meant. And although something irked me, I started my journey into Final Fantasy VII. And I know, most of you probably already know everything there is to know about this game, so I'm going to try to speedrun a non-linear and messy retelling of funny and absurd moments, probably just from the Midgar section. So grab your favorite Mako juice and enjoy this heartwarming journey with me. Needless to say, this video is going to contain massive spoilers. This game's world is beautiful, and its lore extensive. This entry departs from the magical and medieval themes from the first 5 entries and presents us with the dystopian city of Midgar, where a ginormous giga-corporation named Shinra, Shinra, is responsible for draining the planet of its resources in order to provide the population of the world with energy, along with other nefarious and nasty things like increasing their quarterly profits or something. Notice how some of these themes have aged incredibly well. After the initial cutscene, we are blessed with the very era-appropriate 3D model of our main hero, Cloud Strife. He's a cool and edgy mercenary, taking a job from the eco-terrorist insurgent group, Avalanche, a group that's led by a very charming and passionate gun-arm-wielding Barrett Wallace. He's the badass archetype character who's 2 meters tall, and is always yelling at Cloud, but deep inside has a heart of gold. He's accompanied by Tifa Lockhart, Cloud's childhood friend and one of the several love interests in this game. Practically the main reason why Cloud is there to begin with. Accompanied by some minor Avalanche characters. Sorry Wedge, I do really love you. They all go on this mission to take down Shinra's main Mako reactors, the machines that do the sucking of the planet's life stream and turn it into energy. And again, there's a whole rabbit hole of definitions, lore, explanations of everything, but I won't go there for now. One of the first things I found shocking, both in a good and bad way, was the aesthetics of it all. On one hand, I can appreciate the era-appropriate 3D models. You know, it's wonky, it's janky, it's got personality. In other ways, I mean, just look at some of these textures, man. It honestly takes a couple of hours to get used to. But hey, depending on the day of the week, I might be keen into being a jank man. A jank lover, if you will. And so once I got over the huge hindrance of having 50 FPS in battles, I really started to dig into the dialogues. They kind of started to catch me off guard as well. I found myself chuckling and smiling at some of these characters' lines. I mean, the setting for this story is kind of grim. The stakes are high, the air is tense, yet everyone talks with a kind of lightness. It's not the easiest thing to explain. But for example, our dear boy Barrett, being the super over-the-top macho revolutionary, is also kind of a clown. He's hilarious. He's a man that is not afraid to speak his mind, sometimes in a very expected, rude, and, loud kind of way, but also sometimes in an innocent and almost childlike way. The game is littered with funny one-liners, and I think this kind of humor stands up even today. And the greatest part is that most characters have their own trope. Cloud has this dry and cold demeanor, even as he gets dragged into the weirdest situations. Red 13 is literally just a furry with an unexpected amount of depth in his lines. And Aerith. She's definitely presented as the classic damsel in distress, but she turns out to be this quirky and weird character that can be sort of likable sometimes. She's definitely not my favorite, but they kind of improved her in the remake, so it's good to see. And once the whole party is together, it kind of feels like watching a sitcom at times. I definitely can't be alone in feeling this way, right? So, going back to the story, after Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett successfully blow up a couple of reactors, and then the blame gets unceremoniously placed onto them, we get to meet Cloud's second and unfortunately short-lasting love interest. The one I was talking about, Aerith, or Eris? She's the sweetheart and healer of the team and constantly bickers with Tifa to see who can get Cloud's attention. It's funny to see how Cloud was written as this ultra-strong, capable, stoic hyper soldier that's always chased and admired by everyone, especially the women in this game. This gets tenfold more intense in the remakes, but it's interesting to think that maybe some of Cloud's writers might have been projecting their hero fantasies onto their character. I mean, honestly, who wouldn't, right? If I had the chance to write a character for a game, it would probably be way worse. It's great to see, though, that even when these characters appear flawless, especially Cloud for the reasons I said before, they're also very human in many ways. They make mistakes, they admit they don't know things, they get defeated and fooled, they feel sad and disappointed, and most of them come from very broken families and backgrounds. Cloud in Tifa's hometown got burnt down and destroyed. Guess by who? All of these characters in the story are underdogs, and are people that have overcome immense odds to get to where they are. And so, our dear Cloud falls very romantically and very dramatically through the ceiling of a church into a bed of flowers that Aerith just happens to be taking care of. And after a short, sappy moment, they team up eventually with the rest of the team and then start having some fun together. Very shortly after the guys find out that Shinra fucking wants to blow up the city, Aerith gets captured by them because it turns out that she's the descendant of a race that knew how to manipulate the life force of the planet. Oh no! The same life force that Shinra uses to wring the planet of its energy. And they actually do end up dropping a huge 1 billion ton metal plate over the Sector 7 slums, and just very casually kill millions and millions of inhabitants. And of course, they blame it all on our dear pals. Stakes are higher than ever. Our team is at an all-time low. They are public enemy number 1. And now their newest friend has been kidnapped by Evil Corp. It's time for revenge. They all gather at the gates of Shinra's HQ, ready to take Aerith back, and they think, well, we could just barge in using the front door, right? But that'll probably draw the attention of everyone. So they actually decide to take the stairs of like a 90-floor building. And to me, this is one of the best moments in the early game. The game actually lets you choose, and if you choose to go up the stairs, the game actually makes you go up the stairs manually, while Barrett complains about the whole thing and Tifa offers words of tough love. Even if it doesn't, literally force you to manually, control your character up to the 90th floor or whatever. It's kind of funny that the game gives you the choice to do that, And again, here's another moment of lightheartedness amidst another moment of peril and anguish. And I think it's precisely moments like these that contrast the tone and feel of the game that makes everything flow so well. It's a great way to balance a story that has so many sad and dramatic plot points. The thing I like most about humor like this in general is how transparent it can be and the things that it can unearth about a character's feelings or emotions. It's interesting to think about which angle is best for looking at humorous interjections in games specifically, especially when it seems like it's out of place or it's imposed over a serious moment. How meta should I go with this? For example, is Barrett's over-the-top demeanor just a cope for how truly nervous he feels on the inside? Is this actually a moment of vulnerability? Or does he just not like Cloud? Is he maybe just jealous of him? Does this reflect something even deeper in the writer's intention? Was being so over the top all the time even reveal something in the inner workings of the writer himself? I know it can sound silly, I know I'm kind of being the 8th grade English teacher that talks about how the blue drapes in the living room makes the writer feel sad, but yeah, maybe, I don't know. I feel like humor has that power in writing sometimes. Cloud, on the other hand, has humorous moments more coming from his timing and presentation other than anything else. He doesn't outwardly say many funny things, but for example, he always seems to say yes to everything. He always finds himself in situations he definitely doesn't want to be in. There are moments where Cloud seems to try too hard or gives off answers that aren't too confident, especially in dealing with people, almost as if he were acting as a hack, a phony, a failure of what he portrays himself to be. It might seem kinda harsh, but once you know and understand the twist of the story near the end, it almost makes you empathize with Cloud's weird behavior a bit more. You kinda see it in a different light. It's not so much the unrelenting and perfect hyper soldier that we're seeing here. I feel like it's more a young boy dealing with imposter syndrome, possibly even without his knowledge. Once he and us, the player, find out that he's actually invented most of his origin story, the story he tells other people of who he is, due to the trauma that Sephiroth caused him, seeing humor as a coping mechanism starts to kinda make more sense. So anyway, our dudes rescue Aerith and find the aforementioned furry pal, Red 13, who's probably just the most lovable anthropomorphic creature ever to exist. And they just carry on with their quest to find Sephiroth, only to find that he's misplaced his comically long sword inside of President Shinra's sternum. It's all very tragic and intense, and it all culminates in a dramatic motorcycle chase through the city. I was honestly kind of taken aback by how this game just decided to sneak in a minigame like this. Final Fantasy VII, after all, is viewed as a classic JRPG, and arcadey minigames don't really follow the JRPG mantra. Little did I know that it would be the first of many, and although the minigame is definitely clunky and, kind of weird to control, I found it really refreshing and a really fun addition to the experience of Midgar. After the chase, our dudes, for like the 25th time, leave in pursuit of Sephiroth again. And here is where the game finally opens up, so you gain access to the open world. It's funny to think that the first part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake is just this Midgar section of the original game, which only constitutes like 15% of the whole story. But I think it's fantastic that Square Enix chose to do a 3-part remake. Maybe a hot take? These remakes contain so much of the essence of the original game, but obviously extended and stretched in a way that the whole thing can be a full experience, even if it's only based in such a short section of the game. I'm glad that the remake capitalizes on so many of the funny moments and creates so many new ones based on what characters could have said and done. I love that both games, the new one and the original one, glorify the success of the underdog and cherish absurdity on so many levels. It hands down makes for one of the best worlds in RPGs, and beyond maybe. And I think playing an old game like this after going through so many RPGs in my life has been a special experience. I can see so much influence of Final Fantasy VII in some of my favorite games. Nier Automata, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Persona 5, even like Mass Effect maybe. Not saying that Final Fantasy invented quirky and absurd humor in games, but I definitely feel like it's one of the best examples of how a game should implement humor. So yeah, I was actually kind of planning on continuing the retelling of the whole story of the whole game, but I think that's kind of all I have to say about humor in this game. I know there are many other funny moments and lines that I missed, but I feel like if you haven't, you should definitely play it for yourself. I think it's the best way to experience this kind of humor, and it's definitely a bit more interesting than hearing a guy yap about it on the internet. And yeah, I'm still trying to, figure out what kind of videos I want to put out on this channel. So if you got this far, I want to sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really do appreciate it. I enjoy making these kind of analyses. So yeah, I think I'll keep making these kinds of videos. They're really enjoyable. And if you do like them, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Let me know if you like absurd humor and if you think it belongs in RPGs or if it's like kind of weird and boring. I don't know. And yeah, see you in the next one, guys. Go Shinra!